Welcome to Here's the Deal, where we educate, elevate, and inspire the next generation of entrepreneurs. On Here's the Deal podcast, we tell the real stories of business owners, the challenges, the lessons, and the wins that define their journey. And through Here's the Deal video marketing, we help you share your story with the world, creating high-quality video content that's easy, comfortable, and cost-effective. Because every entrepreneur has a story worth telling. And at Here's the Deal, that's where that story comes to life. Hey everybody, what's going on? We're back for another episode of Here's the Deal. And as you can tell, the New York Giants have had a phenomenal draft thanks to Coach Harbaugh there. So very excited about that. But we're not here to talk about the Giants. We're not here to talk about sports. Not a sports show, at least not yet. We're still on business like we always talk about. So last week we were talking about podcasting because I've been getting a lot of requests on like how to start a podcast and what it takes. So there's so much demand for it that I had to actually create a whole product set behind it. Okay. So I literally just came out with podcast coaching and podcast production. Okay. So if you are interested in starting a podcast, like I said, Here's the Deal. Here's the Deal is here to help. One thing I've been hearing about, since I put out the show, things like that, I've been talking to different people and they're telling me that the podcast market is saturated. Really? That's kind of funny because it just hit over 200 billion with a B, billion. It just hit over 200 billion and it's growing at 22% a year. So I'm thinking it's really not saturated just yet. All right. So, but here's the good news. You're not too late because it's early yet. So these are the things that you have to get into your mind. It is not too late. So if you're talking about getting the podcast started, now's the time to do it. So that's the one thing we want to dismantle. The number one excuse for not starting a podcast. And right now is you're in that window. Okay. So we want to dismantle that whole thing of, oh, the market's saturated or podcasts are saturated. That's just not true. Part of the three things that we talked about last week, the last week episode, was the consistency of it. Or your clear message. You got to have a clear message on what your podcast is going to be about. You got to be consistent with it. That's one of the huge keys is the consistency of it. So you're going to have to commit to this thing. If you're going to do it every once in a while, then it's not going to be a podcast. So clear message, consistency, and just hit the effing button, period. We're going to, today we want to show you the money behind, what matters here. So like I said, this is a show that's going to be for entrepreneurs, small business owners, and people who have an expertise in a certain thing, but they're kind of sitting on the sidelines wondering, as that ship already sailed off, honestly, I said, it hasn't even left the docks yet. So that's a good thing. Here's a spoiler alert. Hell, the ship hasn't even been built yet. Like I said, this is a $200 billion industry and it's just literally getting started. So that's the beauty of it. The creator economy, which is podcasting, creator economy is totally in growth mode. All right. So the key is, there are a lot of people that are talking about, maybe take particular, there's a lot of people talking about business. Okay. It's your personal experience. That's what's going to make your show different, not the topic. Okay. The topics I talk about, podcasting or cash flow analysis, right? Yeah, you hear a lot of people talking about them. They don't have my take on it. They don't have 30 years of business banking experience, things like that. That's what makes my shows different from whoever's show it's going to be. Those people haven't done the deals I've done. Okay. So you got to have that clear topic. All right. But it's got to be based on your expertise and what you're totally passionate about. If you got a clear message, and you have the passion for it, you're committed. You're like, hey, this is something I really, really want to talk about. Like I said, hit the effing button, period. Again, we're here to help. We're here to help coach you through it. We're here to help develop your message, and we're here to help you with the production side too. But we just want to make sure that you're not sitting on the sidelines and you're afraid. There's so many people doing podcasts like that. This market's growing. The market's growing. So you got to make sure that you jump in on it, or else you're going to be sitting there like, oh, I really should have started that podcast 2 years ago. Yeah, you probably should have. But again, it's not too late to start now. It's all about getting in now. Every business, has, a point in the history, and we're going to time that out. This is just sometimes a little too wordy. Time in. So the difference between a crowded market and a growing market is that a crowding market, somebody has to lose in order for you to win. But in a growing market, the pie just gets bigger. Okay. That's what podcasting is. That's what the creator content is. Okay. This thing's growing every single year. Like I talked about before, the global creator economy is valued at roughly 200 billion in 2025, projected to grow by 22 to 23% a year. This CAGR, or the compound annual growth rate, is to pass 800 billion by early 2030. Does that sound like saturation to you? No, this thing's a rocket, man. It's taking off. U.S. creator economy alone is worth over 69 billion in 2025 and projected to hit 671 billion by 2035. 69 billion in 25, 671 billion in 35. Tell me that's saturated. Tell me there's no room for your show in this in this field, because there totally is. There are over 207 million content creators worldwide, and over 162 million Americans identify as creators, but only 45 million are doing it professionally. Plenty of room. Like I said, plenty of room in this market to make this thing happen. There's a huge gap in the creator economy. So this is your opportunity. Now's the time to go. Okay. Because again, they don't have the experience you have. Podcasting in itself is specifically called out as one of the fastest growing segments within the creator economy. The industry researchers are projecting that podcasting platform segment to grow, to grow at timeout. I'm going to pick that. I think we're just going to skip that whole segment. So 4.5 million podcasts exist. Okay. But only about 10 to 11% are actually publishing. Okay. So some people started it in 20, like everybody else, but they fumbled around with it. And hey, even I did that. Okay. When I first started, I technically started this show in 20, like everybody else, but I was still working full-time banking. I was doing other things. I got a family. I wasn't committed to this thing like whatsoever. Right. So I was putting on a show here or there, but March 15th, 2024, I went all in, just going all in. So like I said, so out of 4.5 million podcasts that exist, only about 10 or 11 are actively publishing. So, like I said, the competition's, a ghost town right now, because most of those 4.5 million podcasts, they've abandoned it. Right. So like I said, there's so much room. There's so much room. So there's 584 million podcast listeners globally. This is projected to hit 619 million this year in 2026. So it's going to grow from 584 to 619. Okay. And 55% of Americans 12 and over listen monthly. That's in an all-time high. So ad spend, which is another different subject we can even talk about, is 4.46 billion in 25, and it's growing up 27% this year so far already. So it's like, again, the opportunities for podcasting are endless. Okay. The audience is growing, the money's growing, the number of people actually showing up with consistency and quality content, very small. Okay. It is not too late. I mean, just here to dispel this rumor like, oh, I missed the boat. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. Hit the effing button. Okay. Again, we talked about before, your life and your experience are your unfair advantage. Okay. I don't care what it is to talk about. If you're a mom, okay, and you're raising kids and you want to talk about that to other moms out there and, things like that, I'm not talking about it. What do I know about it? I'm a dad, but I mean, I'm not a mom. I don't have the mom's perspective. So they don't have your life with your experiences. So why would you not, talk about that particular subject? If you have a clear message, you think you can help moms out, talk about it, man. It's like that you are the expert in the field. I'm not. I don't have your experience. There's already 100 podcasts out there talking about real estate and fitness and finance. None of them are you. I literally just talked to a guy in the gym this morning. Somebody I work with. Guy's a former Navy vet. Dude's a beast, right? He's my age. You guys, he's jacked, right? He was talking about me about doing a podcast and doing fitness videos. I'm like, yeah, man, you are jacked, bro, and you're my age. So it's like, it absolutely, man. Like, we can definitely do that. So he and I are in talks about that. You are the differentiator. Okay. You're the difference. Like I said, this dude, I'm big. He's big, jacked. I mean, the guy's an animal in a gym. You know what I mean? So if anybody's going to talk about working out at my age, like I said, I need to step up to his level. Okay. And like I said, I've, been there, done that place a long time ago. But anyway, that's the thing. He is the unfair advantage. Okay. When you see this dude working out, when I do the videos for him, you're gonna be like, yeah, I want to do what this dude's doing. All right. Because like I said, he's it. I used to love, there was, I don't even know if Jim Rome's even on the air anymore. Probably is. But, he still says Jim Rome all the time. And, he used to always say, hey, have a take and don't suck. All right. That's, you gotta have that message. You gotta have that clear message. Okay. So with my 30 years in commercial finance, talking about, small business capital and things like that, some 22-year-old YouTuber reading some blog post somewhere, it's not even the same topic. All right. They don't have my credibility. They don't have, my impact on that. Some kid reading a script. It's not going to happen. That goes for anybody out there. If you're an auto mechanic, you've been working under hoods for 25 years, some influencer with a ring light somewhere is not going to be able to talk about it as well as you are. Okay. You're an ER nurse. You want to talk about, health, rather than some wellness coach somewhere, what I mean? Like, you're an ER nurse, like you have the high ground. Okay. Definitely talk about that. There are single moms out there. Like I say, they built a 6-figure business. Okay. Do you want to hear from the mom who built the 6-figure business, or do you want to hear some Harvard professor talking about business, or you rather talk to the person who actually went out there with kids, went out there and did it? All right. Who show you listening to? Precisely. Like I said, the audience doesn't want information. They want you. Okay. Listeners are cited at like 74% want to learn new things. 71% are going in for entertainment, and 60% are because they want to stay up to date on things. Okay. So again, the audience is out there and they want you. They want to hear your reason, for them to keep coming back. That's a commitment. They want to build that relationship with your show. Okay. And podcast hosts, amazingly enough, rank just below friends and family for recommendation trust. Okay. Video builds trust. We've talked about that before in different shows. So if they're seeing you, they're hearing your passion, they know your expertise, they're doing their research on everything that you're talking about. It's like, hey, this person knows exactly what they're talking about. This is real stuff here. You're right there below friends and family. Okay. So again, to that mom out there who, like, if somebody's out there talking about, mental health. Okay. And, that's their field of expertise. It's like, hey, you know what? That's your show. Okay. People are going to, like I said, if they're listening to your show, they're going to trust you on it because they're going to see you every week. They're going to see, you know what you're talking about. So like I said, there's no reason why you shouldn't be hitting the button. Like I said, it's kind of funny. Like I said, I'm reading all these stats here. 81% of podcast listeners pay more attention to podcast ads than any other format. Well, I guess your level of attention when you're listening to a podcast doesn't taper off maybe like it does on TV. But I said, I don't think you can get away from the ads. Personally, myself, I was like, so it's probably why you're listening, because you're waiting for the show to come back on. And 52% of listeners say they feel closer to podcast hosts than they do other media personalities. I think because like me doing this show, there's no corporate guy whispering in my ear, hey, you can't talk about that. I'm like, fuck that. Okay, I'll talk about what I want to talk about. Okay, whereas different if I was on like NBC or something like that, or Fox or whatever, it's like, oh, you can't talk about that. It's like, hey, I'll talk about whatever I want to talk about. This is my show. Okay, so people are gonna they're gonna feel closer to me because I'm actually like I said, hey, I'm a Giants fan. All right, there are probably a million people out there who are Cowboys fans probably just turned the show off when they saw that. Cool, whatever. But I got like another million people. Hey, he's a Giants fan too. Great. Let's listen to this guy. So it just that's the thing. If the people are relating to you and they're digging what you're saying, they're going to tune in. Like all these stats are just, blowing my mind here, about different things. So you can't be scared. You can't say, oh, that topic's taken, or like, again, it's all about your angle and how you use it, So like I said, that clear messaging, weekly commitment, hit the effing button. I'm just going to keep saying those three things. I train my son in the gym all the time, and he probably hears this in his head. We're sitting there, technique is everything, back flat, abs tight. I just keep repeating these things, and he probably says probably mentally scarred by this by now, But like I said, you gotta be consistent with the message. Was what I'm trying to say. You got to be consistent with the message. So if you're not willing to have that clear message, stay in your lane. You want to talk about, I can't talk about art. Okay. Cause I don't know a damn thing about it, nor do I care. So why would I do a show on art? Not going to happen ever. Why do a show about sports? Sure. I definitely have a take on that, and they don't suck. So what am I going to talk about? No, I'm not going to, but what I am going to talk about is the thing that I've been doing damn near my whole life, and that's business. So that's why I'm staying in my lane. So if you're doing that, 90% of the competition won't even be there because they won't commit to those three things. Okay. So again, if you're worried about competition, what are we talking about? The stat we were just talking about earlier before, 4.5 million podcasts are out there. Most of them are abandoned. Okay. Because they weren't committed to doing it. Right. So if you know your message, cool. Okay. Write on a sticky note, put it on the damn monitor, whatever you got to do. I got my note thing here. I'm kind of scanning through things like that. But like I said, it's a tool that we use here, on the Riverside app and stuff like that. So that's the thing. So you got to stay focused on that message when you're doing topics. Okay. If I'm doing it on the show for Here's the Deal, it's all about educate, elevate, and inspire entrepreneurs. That's the show. This right here, starting a podcast, things like that, stays in that lane, stays in that premise right there. Okay. So I'm not going to do a show. If I want to do a show on sports, I could, but if I'm not going to do a show, like I said, on art or being an auto mechanic, because I'm neither one of the two. Okay. So stay on message, whatever you got to do to keep you focused on that message, stay on that message. If you're willing to commit to it weekly, cool. Pick one day. Okay. Pick a time, and you got to block that out. You got to protect it. Okay. Because treat it like it's a client appointment. All right. You're not going to drop a client appointment, right, just to go do something else. No, you're going to be at that appointment come hell or high water. Right. So when you're doing your show, block that time out. Okay. And again, you don't have to do this every single week per se, sit down and record every week. Pick that time. Like I do my show on Fridays. Show doesn't come out till Tuesday, but I pick Friday, 12 to 2. What am I doing it from 12 to 2? Recording this damn show. Okay. Is anything getting in front of that or behind, involved? That? No, this is my time to record my show. I might do 2 or 3 shows in one sitting because I don't want to, if I know, hey, I'm going out of town next week, right? I got the show canned. I got next week's show done. Okay. So it's not like you got to do this. If you want to sit down and do it every week, great. I do that a lot, cause that's what I want to do. But if hey, I'm going out of town, or, hey, this is going on, and you want to do 2, like, I do Eric's show, the Biz Coach show. We just recorded 2 sessions today. We got 2 weeks worth of content already done like that. You got to commit to it. You got to protect that time. Turn off your phone. Don't answer emails. Don't get involved in that crap. Protect your time. Just like if it was a client appointment, you're not going to miss that. Don't miss this. Then, of course, you're going to hear me beating these drums. Clear message, commitment and time, and hit the effing button. Just hit record. Your first episode's going to suck. Who cares? Do it anyway. I don't care. Your 10th episode might suck. Your 50th, you're going to get better. Okay. You are going to get better. The more you do it, just like anything else, just like working out, whatever, if you're, playing around with cooking, when you first start cooking, you're going to burn shit. Okay. It's going to happen. You keep doing it, and hey, it's okay. Like I said, do I watch Gordon Ramsay? Do I watch like all these top chefs when I want to start making something? Sure as hell do. Okay. I watch different shows. I try to be eclectic. I try to take different things. Am I ever going to be Dave Ramsey or Joe Rogan or Sean? No, I'm not. I'm not those dudes. Okay. I'm me. But if I see a little, hey, that was pretty cool. I think, try to work that into my show, things like that. Do that. Okay. You always want to, like I said, you always want to aspire to somebody who's already successful in that field, right? If I wanted to play wide receiver, who am I going to watch film on? Watch film on Jerry Rice. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to watch film on Marvin Harrison. I'm going to watch the top guys. Okay. I'm not going to watch film on some scrub. You know what I mean? So these are the things that, you gotta, you want to aspire for greatness, but are you going to be freaking Jerry Rice the first time you step on a football field? Hell no, you're not. Okay. But you keep putting in the work, you practice, get your footwork down. Yeah, you can get better. I'm not saying you're going to be Jerry Rice, but you can get better. Okay. At what you do, the more you do it, consistency is king, right? Like I said, the top 1% of people in podcasts on the entire planet just don't quit. Okay. I could have quit this show a long time ago. Oh, I'm not getting any listeners. Oh, I'm not getting any subscribers, things like that. But you said you just got to stick to it. Okay. That's the thing. Now the subscribers are going, we're over 2,500. We're at right about 2,500 subscribers right now. Okay. And I just committed to this March of 24. Okay. I wasn't like, I started it in 20, but I didn't commit to it until March of 24. Now the subscribers are coming. Now the views are going up. Now see what I'm saying? It's the consistency of it, and it's the commitment to it. Because 44% of podcasts don't make it past 3 episodes. 3. Are you serious? You can't commit to something for 3? Come on, man. If you're like I said, you're working out, you're only gonna do three workouts and quit and think you're gonna get in shape. You're not gonna get in shape in 3 workouts, bro. Not gonna happen. So what is it? 8% of episodes make it past 10? And 21 episodes put you in the top 1%. 21 episodes. That's it. We're way past that. Okay. And like I said, these aren't my stats. So I'm just reading stats here. I'm just like, I'm sitting there like, man, really? I knew it was a low percentage, but I didn't think it was that low. And publishing consistency is the number one predicator of podcast survival. It's not the equipment. It's not your topic. It's not even your talent. Okay. There are guys out there more talented than me at doing this. Okay. But again, they don't have my take on it, and they're not as committed to as I am. You've seen that before. You've seen it in sports. You've seen it in different things. Maybe somebody with less talent worked harder. Okay. Well, again, I'll go back to Jerry Rice. Jerry Rice, the fastest guy to ever play football? Nope. Sure as hell wasn't. He was not a speed burner, but you know what? He was so damn good at his craft because he worked on his footwork. He worked on his consistency. He worked on his time. He worked on his hands. So you know what I'm saying? That is what got him over the top. Okay. There are guys out there, that, like I said, had all the talent in the world, but thought they could rest on talent. Then they got a little bit older and they got a little bit slower and they didn't put in the work and they're out of the league. Jerry Rice had a long career because he was willing to work every single day. He was committed, period. End of subject. So it's that 2-year 100th episode mark. That's kind of where, people are they're going to win or they're going to quit. Okay. You got to keep going. You got to keep pushing. You're not I'm not competing with a million other podcasts. I'm just not. I'm competing against me. Can I get better at this? Can I, and again, I screw stuff up and, all the time. Okay. but I'm willing to show up. I'm willing to put into work. And that is the whole game. And, just that's it. Okay. Am I going to be here next week? Yep. Am I going to be here the week after that? You bet your ass I'm going to be. So that's the thing. It's like I've been watching people been here tell me for years, they want to start a podcast or, then they, I call them up, nothing. Okay. Because the overwhelm is real. Okay. Again, they're thinking equipment, software, editing, cover art, platforms, consistency. Here's the deal. It's a lot. Most people are going to quit or they don't even get started, period. All right. That's exactly why Here's the Deal. What I said, just came out with a whole thing for helping podcast coaching and production. I had to sit down and make a product for it because demand was there. We're going to sit down with you. We're going to help you find your clean message. Okay. We're going to build the show around your life and your experiences. And we're going to handle as much of the production lift as you want. Okay. So from recording to editing, publishing across all the platforms that you want it on. All right. So that's my commitment to you. You bring the voice, you bring the story. We're going to bring the systems. What's included with that? It's going to be message development, show format, the weekly production, the thumbnails, cover design, multiple platform distribution, social media clips, literally the full stack. All right. So if you're interested in working with Here's the Deal, you want to start a podcast. Okay. I'll give you a free consultation. Mention this show. I'll give you a free consultation. No pressure. We'll have a 30-minute conversation. We'll get your ideas. See if it's got some legs to it. What the podcast is going to, look like for you and for your business. Link below, reach out to us. You can reach out to us at info@heresthedeal.biz/marketing because your show for us, what I said, we're just going to make it easy, comfortable, and connected. Remember this. Okay. The creator economy is in growth mode, 200 billion and climbing. Your experience is your edge. Nobody has your experience. You're one of one. Don't be afraid. Have a clear message, commit to it weekly, and hit the effing button. All right. If you want help doing it, we're here to help. We're out. Here in closing up the show, and Here's the Deal. Just want to give all honor, glory, and praise to my Lord Jesus Christ, who, saved my soul and gives me the ability to do this show. Without him, I couldn't do anything. Also want to give thanks to my family. My wife, my kids support me doing this and, backing me up. I couldn't do any of this without them also. Got to thank the sponsors, of course. Everybody that, supports the show. And, of course, the fans, the people that subscribe to the show. I wouldn't do any of this without you because it wouldn't be a show. So just want to say thank you all very much. Continue to, educate and elevate. Get out there, pursue your passions, pursue your dreams.